Hello again, everybody. It is the E2KG Network. This is Enough to Keep Going, the GX Show, episode 84. Gentlemen, we are at episode 84. So this is the Enough to Keep Going podcast on the E2KG Network. We are coming to you on the evening of Tuesday, March 12th. We're going to be talking about, as the GX Show, as it usually is, as we rotate. Last week was our deep dive show, diving into a variety of topics. Next week, we'll be back with another exploration into the week's news. But on the alternating weeks, we are here to talk about our playlists, our gaming assignments, because, you know, we like to give each other some work to do. And this week's gaming assignment, or our report out on it, was about diving back into some DLC. And we've got another new gaming assignment after our playlist, so stick around to the end of the show to hear about what that assignment will be. But before we get into it, let's go ahead and introduce the rest of the crew that is here. Osiris Prime, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. We're almost at that century mark.
Well, we got another 16 to go. That's still enough to keep us busy.
Yeah.
At least, you know, that'll give us. We'll get there before E3 and knock out a few shows along the way, and maybe we'll decide to change our numbering system again just before we get to 100. Like this is E2KG. We can never stop and settle into one format for too long. So
we'll call it something different.
Yes, right. We will continue going with it. But no, this is good. You were up on our Flock channel today announcing some, hitting us with the Microsoft news of the day. You want to give a quick shout out to the excitement there, or at least the interest or surprise?
Yeah, I'll give a couple of tidbits since we'll have our new show next week. But we got the MCC Master Chief Collection coming to PC, and maybe other than the Windows or Microsoft Store, might be somewhere else it's coming to too. I'll tease that.
It's not even it might be, right? It's up there. You can't pre-order it yet, but you can add it to your wish list. So
that's right.
Anyhow, and also joining us is a Gasicles Stamus. Gasicles, how are you tonight?
Good, man. How are you guys?
We are okay. We are doing okay. So glad to have you here. Thanks for manning the steel wheels as always. So little weekend confirmed callback for those of you. So anyhow, we are going back and looking at our Pickz Playz assignment, which was assigned to us by Swissguard, who is not here tonight. So Swiss had given us the assignment of diving back into some DLC for first single player story-based games. He had Frozen Wilds from Horizon Zero Dawn on his assignment list that he was looking for a reason to get back into. So, like most of our assignments, he gave us some homework to do as well, so that he was not gaming alone. And we were tasked with picking out some single-player DLC content to dive back into. And I had picked up the Ultimate Edition, or not the Gold Edition of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which then came with the Season Pass. Which at the end of this month will also include the remaster of Assassin's Creed 3 and Liberation. But it also had all 3 episodes of the Legacy of the First Blade. So this is the DLC that has your main character from Odyssey meeting up with a legendary assassin, one of Darius, who's a wielder of the traditional Assassin's Creed Hidden Blade. And going through, getting a little bit of additional lore here. By the 3rd episode, which I have not gotten to yet, it is pretty lore heavy and ties back into other places within the Assassin's Creed storyline. We get some allusions to some characters within Assassin's Creed Origins, and it kind of tries to tie it all back in a little bit together there as well. So that was my pick, and I actually picked it because I had set Assassin's Creed Odyssey down last fall. Right, this was when we did our superlative show. This was the game that I thought was going to be my most played game in 2019. The game I would come back to. But I set it down. I got frustrated with the leveling system. I got frustrated with kind of the, how I could be in the middle of a combat fighting a level the same level enemy with me and chipping away at it, or that as my heat level, my wanted level decreased from the mercenaries, actually on the screen I could see the mercenary level of the same character trying to get at me drop because my wanted level had dropped, right? And I had frustrations with how much damage you would do to enemies, even the limited amount of damage that you would do to enemies just even one level above you. But Assassin's Creed, the development team had come up with a patch, or at least another update to it, which allowed you to set some level scaling. And so when I went back into it now, I played around with the level scaling where the default is that everything is only 2 levels below you, but you can modify that so that it's always at the same level, 2 levels below you, or potentially 4 levels below you. So I did. I set it down all the way to 4 levels below me. So I had a shot, and I started up the DLC. And story-wise, I started my character. I left my character kind of from a spot within the main game where the rest of the world had opened up. Cassandra had learned about her legacy and ties in with the early the Latin civilization, and so there was a whole lot kind of larger kind of mystical sci-fi pieces there that had been opened up to her. So she took a break from that, or at least actually it ties in here nicely. So I had started it and got stuck at the intro battle with the assassin, with Darius. It's a big boss battle, and we were at the same level, and I was rusty with the mechanics. So I went back in, leveled up a little bit, played some more of the main game, and really reconnected with the character. Went back, I was 2 levels higher than the battle, but I had also figured out the mechanics better and got it. It had a heart racing battle. Actually, well, the first time in a long time where in a single player game I've had one of those kind of sweaty palm, heart racing moments trying to squeak out a boss battle. But then kind of marathon through the first DLC, the episode 1, and it really kind of crescendos nicely. The story arc of it is pretty good. There's some nice allusions in there to the rest of the Assassin's Creed the franchise, right? There's a toss away line early in the DLC where Cassandra is looking for the Hidden Blade assassin. She's supposed to meet him somewhere, and she finds a guard hidden in a bush. And she eventually meets up with him and says, "Why did you hide him in a bush?" And he says, it allows them not to be distracted or discovered, right? And it's that allusion to all the traditional Assassin's Creed games where you'd be hiding people in tall grass and things like that. So it was actually a really good experience, and it sucked me totally right back into the character of Cassandra. And I've gone back in and finished out that. I'm playing some more of the regular game content and have started up the second DLC, the second episode of the DLC, which actually got a little controversial. And this is why I picked this, is because it got a little controversial with the story, because it forced players to have a heterosexual relationship with a character and eventually have a child. And the most recent patch here changed that dialogue and some of the flow of that, so that it could be a romantic relationship, or it could just be that you are carrying out the bloodline, which ties in with the rest of the story. And so I think that was a nice change. Definitely the way that I'm playing my Cassandra character, she has not settled down in any real romance, and to feel forced into that, I think diminishes. So I was glad that the developers kind of came back to that and addressed that both out in the media, but also then in the game as well. So that's been my experience over the last week with this assignment. That Swiss's assignment really sucked me back into a game and reminded me how much I enjoyed the good characterization that Assassin's Creed had, especially coming off of Anthem and really wanting some good characterization. It was nice to fall back into a character that I cared about. So questions, gentlemen, on Assassin's Creed? Otherwise, I'm going to turn over to Prime, because you also have your assignment here as well.
Yeah, so just a question on the leveling aspect.
Yeah.
So you can only go down to four levels underneath yourself?
Yes.
Yep. or maximum, I guess, whichever way.
Which the way that the leveling works, you can pretty well rip through people at 4 levels below you. You know, I could storm into a base of guards 4 levels below me, and you know, parry their combat and just keep rolling.
Yeah.
So.
Did you ever bump it back up, or can you bump it back up like once you said?
Sure. Yep. You could push start at any point in time and change that setting. And so in some ways it could be good if you're trying to, you know, get past a difficult spot. You know, but at the same time that so even with it set down to 4 levels below me, depending on where I'm at, you know, it still isn't, everything isn't 4 levels below me. It's only like when things there are certain zones in the world. And so some zones are still too high for me at, you know, I'm in 38, 39 right now. So there's still zones in the 40s that I can't even get into or couldn't, you know. But even when I'm in a zone that is levels below me, the mercenary system, it brings people that are at my same level. I've seen mercenaries wandering through me that are multiple levels above me that I've had to still try to avoid. So there's not necessarily, you know, it still provides some type of gameplay tension, even in spaces where I should be steamrolling through people.
Yeah. So I feel like the story that we're hearing here is similar to one that we've gone over the last few weeks, which is this dichotomy between a game's design versus a game's storytelling quality. I guess one question I had since the assignment was about whether or not the DLC enhanced or expanded your overall experience, particularly in the story. I mean, so you loathed, maybe dreaded going back because you knew you were going to run into those mechanical stops. But what's your take on the story and whether or not the mechanics were so abrupt that they actually broke your experience of that?
I would say the mechanics, it just took me a while to get back into them. They're very functional. You know, but in terms of the story, the story definitely, you know, I was at a place in Odyssey where I had kind of hit this mushy middle where there was all kinds of world that was opened up to me, but not any real narrative that was propelling me forward, where I could go, you know, almost like that MMO problem where there's so much stuff to do, but none of it was really narratively exciting. This story had a rhythm and a pace that kept driving you forward. So I burned through the first episode within a day and a half. Once I got into it and was leveled enough, you know, it propelled me to the place where I wanted to see that story through. Story-wise, it does some nice things. It challenges kind of your perspective of being the assassin and how much of a hero you actually are or how much of a monster you might be. It gives you a much deeper understanding of kind of where the origins of the assassins come from. And so, you know, for somebody who's interested in kind of the Assassin's Creed lore or has a familiarity with the other games, I think the first DLC with Legacy of the First Blade is overall successful. I think it stumbles in the second one. You know, there's times when the camera lingers too long and tries to make you care about Darius's son or daughter, depending on the sex of your main character. So some of that is a little heavy-handed, but the actual, you know, the enemies that you're fighting, the reason that you're fighting them, the story and lore behind it all it definitely enhances that experience, and so much so that it sucked me right back into the overall game.
So were you acclimated to the issue, insulated against the issue, or has the issue been superseded?
The issue of kind of the leveling and the frustration of the gameplay piece there.
Right.
I think the issue has been, I guess I would say, superseded at this point because of the patch that they've put out where it allows you to drop further. Okay. So there's, you know, some of that is still there, but it's not nearly as overwhelming to the point where it pushes you, you know, kind of beats you down. Where I remember talking about how I felt like I was leveling but never actually gaining anything because everybody would just level with me, right? It's almost that oblivion problem.
Yeah, and I thought maybe my chronology's off. I thought you had indicated that patch was available before you finished the game, and that it still didn't fully compensate for the problem.
No, they had announced what it would be.
Okay, but it hadn't been. It didn't
had
go out
not
until
been,
you
yep.
got the DLC. Okay, all right.
Exactly. So Prime, you went back to a game that you've spent a whole lot of time in and have some fond memories for. So back to Agasicles' questions, right? Was the assignment here was related to, did it enhance, expand your experience, or did it feel kind of samey? So you were in what game?
I was in Skyrim, and I was doing the Dragonborn DLC, which was the very last DLC that they had dropped.
And Prime, what platform did you play it on?
Xbox One.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, the super special edition, whatever they released on the Xbox One. So
Okay.
So that had all the DLC in it already, so which was nice because obviously this was a 360 game originally. Yeah, so fortunately for me, I had actually beaten the main story of Skyrim initially, because kind of going back to this game and going back to this DLC Dragonborn, basically the plot is you're supposedly, this hasn't really panned out for me yet. I don't know if this has happened because I didn't finish it, but you're supposed to be fighting the very first Dragonborn that whatever there ever was. So, which is named Merrick, however you pronounce it. But that's basically the end goal of this DLC, and I didn't get that far, back when I started this on 360, I didn't get that far, and unfortunately I didn't get far yet into that, but I do want to finish it. And yeah, it did get me back into the feel of this game, and there's other gameplay mechanics and stuff I'll talk about here in a second that it kind of draws you back in, and just as far as gameplay, yeah, it's kind of samey. You got your magic and your if you want, or your sword and shield, or bow and arrow, whatever you want to do. But I like this gameplay. I don't know what it is about the Elder Scrolls, and this is actually the first, I guess, action RPG, because it's not a true RPG most people think of, but this is like the first RPG that kind of drew me into it. I wanted to finish it. I played Oblivion. I had fun with that. I don't think I got all the DLC for that one. I think I got maybe the first couple. But this one, I was like full in. I got every DLC as soon as it came out. And this is one was actually pretty meaty. They give you a new island. Trying to see the name here. I forgot it already. Solstheim. That's the island you have to go to start your adventure and do all the everything you got to do on this DLC. But it's not nearly as big as the whole of Skyrim, but it's a pretty good chunk of a map or a map area that you kind of play in and get to run around in. But yeah, it did draw me back in. Excuse me, just because I love doing the shouts. That's like one of the main powers that you have, in the game. You get some new ones. Another new ability, well, I shouldn't say ability, I guess, is a new action you can do is you can actually tame and ride dragons, which I didn't do yet here. I think I did it back when I started on a 360. But I definitely want to start that and do that again, just because that's a little bit easier way to traverse the map. Better than just running around everywhere, or just jumping on a horse, which is it's just fine too, I guess. But being able to fly around, that'd be pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, but yeah, it did definitely draw me back in. I do want to jump back more into this DLC and finish it, because, like I said, this is the only one I didn't finish. I think I said 4 altogether, including this one. And the first 2, I believe, are story driven, more or less. Third one was just like kind of stuff they added into like the building aspect, and it was kind of like the first entry into building that Bethesda started doing. Obviously they fleshed it out in Fallout 3 and 4 and 76 more so, but this one, it definitely has a lot of great characters, a lot of the scenery is definitely different from what you see in Skyrim. It's kind of mountain and more just forest and stuff, but it's not like a regular forest like pine trees and stuff like that. So it just aesthetically it looks very different. So I definitely want to get back in here and try to finish this one off, just because I didn't before, and I kind of want to finish everything off in this game once and for all. But I'll probably still go back and play it anyways, even after I finish doing all that, because it's basically got endless quests since it's all procedurally generated, more or less.
So you pretty much own this on every system that you have access to, right? I mean, you have it on Switch, you have it on Xbox, you have it on 360. Is it, does it encourage you to keep coming back to it, or you know, like you're saying, I mean, now you own it in enough places. Are you going to see it through in all of those, or is it something you're going to pick up on different ones depending on, you know, where do you see yourself coming back to it? I guess that's my question. Is this something you're going to come back to on Xbox, or how far are you in the Switch one? And is that going to be a place that you come to?
Or are you desperately holding out for cross progression?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I doubt that. I wish. No, I'll probably go back onto the Switch more than likely, just because obviously it's portable. You know, I can just pick it up anytime I want it. And actually, the first time I did play it, go back and play it, I was playing on the Switch. I was trying to do the train thing again, where I was playing on the train, but there's places in here that's so dark. Even if I put the brightness all the way up, I just couldn't see anything. I couldn't tell what was going on. So that's why I kind of jumped back into the Xbox One version. Just because, you know, I can play it on a big TV and see a little better. But yeah, I'll probably jump back on the Switch eventually, and just because, you know, you can play different styles. Like I said, you can do archery, you know, only, or you can do, you know, you can be a barbarian if you want, just do swords and axes and stuff, or just all mage stuff, magic stuff, which I already did on the 360 side. When I went through it initially, I was doing the mage kind of storyline, so I was kind of doing more of the. I think I did like more of the sword and shield stuff when I was on the Xbox One, and Switch, kind of combination of magic and archery. So kind of just building that up. And actually on the Switch, I started doing more alchemy stuff, which I really didn't do on the other side, on the other two. And so yeah, and you can do, you know, you can buff yourself up to, you know, god levels basically if you do if you do the alchemy right, because you can stack stuff up and, you know, give yourself all kinds of potions and stuff. So I'll probably jump back on there on the Switch side.
Cool, nice. So, Agassicles, you used one of your exemptions to pass on this assignment, which is perfectly fine. You have a perfect attendance record, so you can use your exemptions on different assignments here. You can use your credits, but you spent your time not going back into a specific game or DLC, but you spent your time back into a franchise and a game style that you have a long history with, and that is Dirt Rally 2. You want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, so this was my new game day purchase for, I guess, the beginning of the month. And yeah, you're right. This is the 13th episode in this franchise. I can't remember how long it's been around. Since the early 2000s, and I think I played it. I bought the first one back when it was called the Colin McRae series. I think I kind of bought it on a whim. It was back when, you know, PC games were sold in boxed units in game stores, and I didn't even really know what it was that I was buying. And I think I did have my wheel and pedal, my first set of wheel and pedals at the time. So it was a pretty interesting experience, and I had just become interested in rally racing, you know, as a TV hobby selection. So, but yeah, so if you're not familiar with the series Dirt, the Dirt franchise these days, developed by Codemasters, tends to alternate the style of gameplay for each version. They will typically do a version that's a little more arcadey and is kind of a highly accessible game. Often with events that don't really exist in the real World Rally Championship. It intermixed with a lot of rally / dirt things that are not part of WRC but might exist in other types of sports organizations around the world, like the Gymkhana stuff and things like that. Then they've most recently, so it used to all be like hardcore sim. Then they started doing this alternating schedule. This Dirt Rally 2.0, so I guess 2015, I think, was a dirt rally, and then after, I should walk that back a little bit. It used to be hardcore sims, and then it made its move to console. And when it made its move to console, that's when they did this more accessible style. So when you go back to where they kind of, unfortunately, due to his untimely death, when they dropped the Colin McRae branding, that's where you got Dirt 2, and Dirt 3 back in the console generation 7. Like I said, when things were more accessible. So with the return to PC with Dirt Rally, that version of the game was a little more simulation oriented, and it was widely critically acclaimed and was a fan favorite. Then they did Dirt 4, which people disliked. A lot of fans disliked because I guess they weren't prepared for the alternating shtick, and there were a lot of complaints about it being arcade and not being a sim. And then now we're back with Dirt Rally version 2. There's a lot of Sturm and Drang about this as well in the fan base because I believe there's technically less content in this version than was in the original Dirt Rally. Volume wise, there's less here because as many games now are doing is they are doing content delivery and I think something like a season pass. So tracks that were part of Dirt Rally will eventually come out later as part of season pack content deliveries. For me, that's fine because I'm not going to pound away at this one game for like weeks at a time. I'm not going to exhaust all of the content. I spent probably 8 or 9, maybe 6 to 9 hours in it in this first run. And I certainly I didn't even complete like the first season championship. And I think there were 3 or 4 in maybe 6. I think there were 6 in the launch content. So again, I think it's fine. I didn't buy the season pass, and it's probably one of those things where I'm not going to bother unless I go back and really burn through that much content. So for me, it's perfectly fine. I'm a little unclear on some of the progression model bits right now. Like, it appears that I'm locked into this one car for 6 championships, and each championship is 4 stages. So that's 24 races that I only have access to my one car. So I'm not clear exactly. Dirt Rally and Dirt 4 were a little Byzantine in terms of like how you could get into a different car. You actually had to back out of you can't do that once you're in the championship screen, which is like the first level dive from the UI. You actually have to back all the way out, and be at almost the start menu, like not even technically in your career mode, which is not intuitive because you're monkeying with something that impacts like what you have available to you in the career mode. So. But I mean, from a physics engine standpoint and how it performed with the wheel and pedals, I did set up my Thrustmaster 458 Italia, Ferrari 458 Italia wheel and pedals. It worked great. I had a great time in it from a physics engine perspective, and no problems. So
cool. Do you know? I mean, so the unlocking of cars aspect of that, I'm curious, how much of that is just the menu piece in that? It's obtuse, or how much of it is that it locks you in because you're in a rally?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So Dirt 4 and Dirt Rally. So Dirt Rally, you could change the vehicle in a season. You couldn't change the vehicle within a championship. So once you started a championship, which was like 4 events. You didn't have to stay in the vehicle then. But once you completed like the first championship and went on to the second championship in a season, you could swap into a different vehicle. But exactly how you go about doing that is not clear to me. I think I got one choice between 2 vehicles at the start, and I haven't seen any way to get in and change that, which is fine. The difference between the simulation versions versus the arcade versions. The arcade versions are a little closer to like the survey sim approach that larger racing games have, where you can, you're expected to drive a bunch of different vehicles and you can change frequently between events. The simulation heavier ones are much more of the thing of you're going to be in a car, for a lengthy period of time, and get intimately familiar and dork around with all the setups and that kind of stuff. So it's not necessarily not to be expected, and it's probably fine.
So you mentioned this was your new game purchase. Was this a game that you had been tracking because of your history with it and the kind of a new iteration? Or was this a kind of spur of the moment, it's the weekend and I want a new game? See, I know you. This is fun because we've had these conversations like, I think I should play something new.
So generally, well, ish. So generally, I always have planned new game purchases in a month, on relatively random days of the month, and I'll typically buy whatever is the most well reviewed thing at the top of like the news feed right at the time. So I never really know exactly what I'm going to wind up purchasing for the most part. But so this was a game that I was aware of, and was tracking, and I knew when it was coming out, and I knew it might line up well for my for one of my purchase dates in the month of March. The question for me was, because of my NBA 2K18 experience, for PC games, I think I've mentioned before how now I look at both the Metacritic score and the Steam user reviews, and historically, like since that game experience and dealing with the refund from Valve, I have elected like to only go with games that have positive or higher, mostly positive or very positive reviews on Steam user reviews. I will typically not buy a game that has mixed user reviews. This game, at the time I purchased it, had mixed user reviews. But again, the Dirt series is one where I have had several years to read like the deep bias that exists within those user community reviews, and kind of graded it more so on a curve, and went ahead and went with this game. I guess my other options were Metro Exodus and Ape Out. And I was just kind of like, Ape Out would have been interesting. Metro Exodus would have been interesting, but I haven't bought a ton of racing games, and it just seemed too much a shame to potentially pass this one by due to the Steam user reviews, because of, we don't get rally racing games that often. So.
Yeah, and given your experience, as you said, with both the community but also the franchise, you kind of knew what you were getting into in terms of the level of depth in it and what it was. So
to a certain extent, I was a little shook by like the notion of the season pass and not really clearly understanding what that impact might be.
Sure.
So it was still a bit of a gamble, to stick out the $60 for that. But
so do you think you're going to keep it in your rotation then, or is it moving down the list now that you've done a little bit? We'll see how you're.
It's So right now my next new game purchase isn't until the end of the month, so I've got some backlog time right now. So it could toggle back up to the top, but depending on how much time we have left in the show, what the other things I've been doing is I went back and have been revisiting Destiny 2, because I have a friend and fellow streamer who picked that game up for the first time. So I had an opportunity to run through with them with a fresh set of eyes.
So you played a new character, or
not new,
okay.
Newer than my OG Titan that I ported over from Destiny.
Wait a minute. Oh yeah. You can't port over the character, could you? You could port over the image of the character, right?
This is yeah.
Okay.
I mean from a spiritual aspect,
yes.
It is theoretically, in the story in my head, it's the same guy, right?
There we go. I'm with you.
So no, I had a chance to play to run my Warlock, who's kind of like my middle level character between my 3 on PlayStation 4. So I had a chance to run that this weekend, and then from there I've peeled off to go finally look into Super Mario Odyssey. So I started that this morning.
So first off, let's go back to Destiny 2, because you're playing with people that haven't gone through it before. Had they played the original Destiny, or is this kind of a fresh experience for them diving into this?
Yeah, this person who's a Twitch streamer on Twitch named Naomi Grice. This is actually her first experience, and I mean, what's going on with me right now is I'm spending some time and making some dedicated effort to seek out and find other streamers, because they are few and far between, whose shtick is playing single player story driven campaign type games, and of course Destiny 2 has co-op. So I mean, not discounting co-op, but people who are not playing multiplayer battle royale first person shooter kind of games. So I came across, and And I've been seeking out, like, I've been doing it by seeking out people who happen to be playing whatever game I have in rotation. So she and I were playing Red Dead Redemption 2 at the same time.
Nice.
And she went from there and played Outlast, which she and I had a discussion about, because of course I had played the PC version based on an old E2KG assignment back in the day. But then, yeah, she started a campaign in Destiny 2 this weekend, and I had some time between coming off of Dirt Rally 2 before I shifted over to Super Mario Odyssey. So I teamed up with her for a few 3 or 4 hour gameplay sessions of that, which was pretty fun. It's always nice. I mean, Destiny 2, mechanically and from a physics perspective, it's kind of always the same game, and it's it's heavily people driven in terms of, like, to experience it with somebody who was experiencing it for the first time, and was, like, super excited by, like, what was on display and what they were like. They didn't have all that emotional and cultural baggage from, like, Destiny, or even Destiny 2, from the whole, like, like, people pissing in their Wheaties because they didn't like, the content and the DLC kind of stuff. It was a very pure gamer experience, and that was super appreciated. So yeah.
That's nice. I think that's great to be able to participate in that. And one, I think I commend you for seeking out other streamers who are kind of in a niche and in a pocket there, and that's great. The other piece is, yeah, I mean, Destiny 2 still plays really well, and as Destiny 2 last week, it was the launch of the Season of the Drifter. Today actually came out with some more content, including the Thorn quest for the Thorn exotic hand cannon, and 2 other kind of allegiance quests where you need to either choose to side with Zavala in the Vanguard or the Drifter over in Gambit, and you get a couple kind of branching paths there. But I had also been playing Destiny 2 on PC leading up to the Season of the Drifter, and then last week a little bit with the Drifter, with some of that new content with Gambit Prime and the new other PvE mode. And the name escapes me right now, because here's the truth, and this is where I think it ties nicely into your experience, I guess, Cleese, is that it really was. It really surprised me not surprised me, right? I ran back through the story of Forsaken with my second character. So I had made it up to 649, and rather than grind out that one last power level before the light jumped up again, I went to a second character and ran through the story to have a second character. The Forsaken story is really good, and there is some momentum. It propels you, it drives you nicely. So I was coming off kind of that, like, narrative high of storytelling and kind of momentum in the gameplay into the Season of the Drifter, which was basically play some Gambit matches. Here's this new thing, and you're going to get some armor that can be good going back into Gambit. And so it was a letdown of, like, oh yeah, this is really great, and then it's like, oh well, we're just getting this little bit of a content drop.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't that to be expected? I mean, Forsaken was $30 like DLC, right? I mean, it's an expansion pack in the classic sense of the conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago, whereas Season of the Drifter is kind of a gimme, and it's free, and it's just right. I mean, these are the things that Bungie does simply to keep you invested in it before they have $30 DLC ready for you again.
So it's not free because it's the second of the 3 pieces of the annual pass. Okay. But again, we knew that the annual pass was not going to be big story driven, big cutscene heavy stuff. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it's not unexpected at all, right? I mean, it is. I was coming off of a very narrative tight focus into this kind of like, yeah, here's some more stuff to grind up some more levels. But
remind me of the business model, etc. So Season Pass did not get you Forsaken?
So Forsaken was a separate purchase. So currently, you can buy Forsaken, which includes all of Year One's DLC and the game, basically. But the annual pass is additional. The annual pass is another $30 on top of Forsaken.
So did Forsaken? Well, let me ask it this way: if you bought Destiny 2 at launch and a Season 1 season pass, didn't you also get Osiris and Warmind?
Yes, at the yep.
Right. So Forsaken, I guess that was an instance where they split the business model in the second season because technically that annual pass was the second season, right?
So yeah, Forsaken was kind of the big launch of the second
season.
year.
Okay.
And then rather than doing a DLC during that, then they did the annual pass. So rather than doing 2 other content pieces, you get this kind of trickle of things. But that they also had done. They shortly went after when Forsaken came out by the middle of October, they had said that if you purchase Forsaken, you also would get the 2 DLCs from Year One along with it. So it allowed everybody to kind of catch up. And actually, that catch-up mechanic is something that Season of the Drifter does really well, and I want to call this out because it's one of the reasons why I started a second character in trying to level back up, because they now have a catch-up mechanic, or at least they have 4 different kind of weekly bounties that you can do that will give you a full set of armor and a couple weapons at 640. So right now the max is 700. The max was 650, but basically they're relatively simple things like go play a strike and complete 2 Vanguard bounties, or not anything high level, something that you can do with any type of 300 power level character that would then give you a boost to get up to be able to play some of this additional content. So
right, and does each DLC, or is it just Forsaken? One of the Forsaken lets you do a level jump, right? Just like Taken King did.
Yes, yeah, and some of those bigger DLC patches, you could do like a big level jump up to level 25 or up to light level 300 or something like that.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
See all the fun you're missing, Prime?
See, Prime? See, and while we're talking about single-player, story-driven pieces, you have a playlist that's populated with Battle Royale games. So talk to us about your trio of Battle Royale experiences.
It wasn't if it wasn't for my clumsiness, I would have spared everybody the Destiny 2 talk. No, I'm just kidding. I play Destiny 2, so don't worry, guys. Yeah, so a little background here before I start here on my Xbox play. I did a little bit of Agaskle's rearranging of technology, and I was talking about this on the flock. So I have my main Xbox One X on in my living room TV, big 55-inch TV, and I put my OG my original Xbox One down in the basement. Basement's cold, especially in the winter. It's really cold in the winter. So I was like, all right, I had this printer next to my desk setup here. It's not working anymore, so I got rid of that. So I had the space just open. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna throw my Xbox, my old Xbox over here, see how it works on my computer monitor, because I'd never done that before. I was like, I don't know if that's gonna work, and I don't know if I want to sit there and in front of a computer monitor and do that. But I did that. I like it. I really do like it. I mentioned this too. It's pretty cool just sitting there. I got a 24-inch, I believe, monitor, Asus monitor. Nothing fancy, 1080p. It's not 4K or anything, but still, the original Xbox looks really nice. All the games I've played so far. Played Apex Legends, which is on my list here. Still going through that. I think there's a leak today too of possible characters coming up in that game, but still enjoying that game. Like the game. Still have, I don't want to say I have a problem, but the controls are still a little bit too floaty, too slippery for my taste. So I jumped back into Blackout this past weekend, Call of Duty 4 Black Ops 4 Blackout mode, which is their battle royale game. I hadn't played that actually since Apex Legends came out, so I finally jumped back in there. They had they have a new mode in there. I can't remember what it is right now. It's like a police chase kind of a mode or something. I haven't played it yet. They throw the limited time roles in there, just like all these battle royale games do. But just playing the regular game, I gotta say that the controls in that game are just nice. They're very, very clean. There's no sliding around like in Apex Legends, or no building obviously in like Fortnite and stuff like that. But just clean cut, just kind of like when it first came out. And, it's PUBG, but obviously streamlined, and there's more or less no bugs, no game breaking bugs at least. You get all the Call of Duty power ups and weapons and stuff like that, or most of them. And they added a new section of Ghost Town. I think it's in the southeast corner of the map now. So they're adding little things here and there, kind of like Fortnite does. There's no story to it though. They just kind of throw it in there, which is fine. I mean, it's a battle royale game. I don't really care. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with that. And like I said, Xbox is nice. I actually bought another external battery, just a smaller one this time. I think it was like 2 terabytes at the end of last week, just to kind of load some more stuff onto this, because I only have the original hard drive, which is 500 gigabytes. So I could only put a few games on there. So I started loading stuff back in there, and I'm going to play a little bit more on here, even though a little slower, obviously, loading up games and going through the menus and stuff like that. But it's not terrible. So I mean, I'm kind of used to it now that I've been playing for like the past week and a half or so. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the monitor setup now. And I was thinking of putting the Xbox One X, but my wife likes to go to sleep early, and then I'm kind of cut off from the better Xbox system. So I'm going to leave that one there for now. So we'll see what happens in the future. But for now, I'll keep it on here. So yeah, have a lot of fun.
So go back to the leak here. So we get a little bit of a leak of some of the battle pass. Do you have any specifics related to? So do you feel with Apex Legends, is the battle pass something that you're interested in, as you're having a lot of fun with it?
No, I mean, I've never bought any battle passes so far. I do have, and this is something I didn't mention last week. I didn't get a chance to. The Fortnite Season 8 battle pass I actually have, but that was only because you're able to get it free at the end of Season 7, where they did a bunch of challenges you could do. There's like 19 or 20 challenges altogether, but you only had to do like 13. If you did all 13, you get the next, Season 8 battle pass free, which I did, and I helped my son do it also. So we both got the battle pass, so we're going through that. We've been playing a lot of Fortnite with him on the weekends, so we've been just unlocking stuff through the battle pass. But I'm probably never going to buy one. I mean, if they have free stuff, I mean, that's fine. I mean, most of these battle royal games usually have like a free tier where you don't have to buy anything, you still get stuff. So I'll probably just keep going with that. But yeah, there's 2 different leaks I saw. There's one where just one character. I was going to pull it up. I had it pulled up before and I lost it, but kind of looks like almost like a Borderlands type of character. Kind of. A lot of people were mentioning that, and I kind of saw it even before I saw those comments. That he does kind of look like a. I don't know what the enemy is, but he's the guy on the cover of the Borderlands 1 and I think 2 game. So it kind of looks like that, but and people are kind of comparing that, but he looks kind of cool. And then there's another one which I didn't get to read further, but evidently there's like 9 more characters that's leaked out. And an interesting thing is, I guess supposedly they're supposed to put NPCs in there, which I'm not sure how that's going to work, because it's a battle royale game. I don't know if they're going to add more modes into it, maybe, or I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out.
That'd be interesting to see what they do with that. Yeah, it's possible, right? For to give some fodder in between. Who knows how they do that? If there's
maybe before the jump outs, like in Titanfall, they used to do. They had the little robot guy that would talk to you before you jumped out of the
maybe
incoming ship or something. I don't know. Or maybe there's like a market you can run into real quick and buy something, and then get out of there before you get shot or something.
So you also played a little bit of Blackout, right? So how does that compare? Go ahead.
So I just want to, while we're on Prime for the Xbox minute, and if I didn't mention in my section on Dirt Rally, I'm playing that on PC. But for Prime, and for all of us, I mean, really. So just out of curiosity, I don't think I've seen, heard, or seen the rundown. Is no one playing anything that dropped on Game Pass on Xbox?
Not currently, no.
A little bit of Crackdown 3.
Okay.
I enjoyed what I played. I definitely want to go back to it. But yeah, not anything else yet.
Okay.
No, yeah, and I had been playing Crackdown 3 also, and I just didn't get a chance to get back to it this past week.
So we're moving on to Blackout. So you've been playing Blackout as well as I mess up my hair, as well as Apex. You know, in your battle royale trio here. How does it compare? Right, this is the first time you've been back to Call of Duty Blackout since Respawn's Apex. You know, they've added the ping system within Blackout, or some version of it. Give us a quick comparison here.
Yeah, actually, Blackout had a sort of a ping system. They don't have you can ping items, and that's really about it. Like items and weapons, backpacks and stuff like that. But you can't do enemies yet, at least not that I've seen. Fortnite actually was the other one that actually totally implemented a ping system. They didn't have anything before. But yeah, Blackout, it's kind of cumbersome when you're doing a Blackout. You have to press down on the I think it's down on the D-pad, and then you kind of wheel around. There's like a little dial that comes up, and you kind of wheel around, and you have to pick whatever you're looking at. So if it's like a backpack, it'll say, "Hey, I found some equipment" or something like that. So it's a little cumbersome. It's not as easy, like just one button click like in an Apex. But yeah, going back to Blackout. It's kind of weird to say because it's a Call of Duty game, but it's actually a little bit slower than Apex, and I kind of like that because it's not as frantic, and like I said, there's kind of that sliding motion almost that I can't. It's just weird. It's just weird to me. I can play it and I'm fine with it, but I kind of like this. Like I said, it's weird to say slower Blackout movement and just gameplay. It just feels a lot better to me for some reason.
Cool. Well, so. Do you feel like you're done with Blackout then, and you're moving on to Apex, or is it something you're going to keep rotating back through?
Yeah, I'll probably just bounce in between both of them. Like maybe one weekend I'll do one, and next weekend I'll do another, or something like that. So yeah, I'll definitely bounce between the three really, because I'm still playing Fortnite. Like I said, I have the Battle Pass now for that, so I'm kind of doing that also.
Yeah, any Fortnite updates here to round out your Battle Royale trifecta? You and your son playing still?
Yeah, so we're still playing. They just released today, actually, as a new vehicle where it almost looks like that little ball thing from Jurassic World, where they kind of clear a ball, and it has like a suction cup thing where you kind of like, hook yourself to stuff, and you kind of bounce around the maps. So I haven't tried it out yet. I've just seen it. I've seen a couple of videos too. It looks pretty cool, but I'm anxious to try it out.
Cool. All right. Well, before we move off into the assignment. Zeux, I want to go back to you, Agasicles, and to see, you had quickly mentioned that you had played a little bit of Mario Odyssey, finally, as you said. So what made you dive into Mario, and how are you finding it? You're not a big platformer player, so...
And that is Super Mario Odyssey.
Yes, excuse me, yes.
Yeah, it just again, just rolling the dice and seeing what comes up. It was just a random pick from my backlog. So yeah, I've only played one session this morning. I'm planning on getting back to it tonight after we get off the podcast. It's a thing. I mean, it's graphically gorgeous. It's a beautiful. Shining example of design from an artistic perspective. It kind of weirds me out with some of the goofy spelunking that it just wants you to do for no real reason, right? Like in other games when you spelunk, it's because there's a progression bit to it, right? Like you're going to look for a weapon, or you're going to look for something that aids you in progressing through the campaign. In Super Mario, there's just you go searching around the level just to find stuff just because. So, which isn't part of my real my gamer makeup. So it's something I'll have to adjust to. I did possess a dinosaur this morning, which I thought was very super cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I know where you're at in the game then. Yeah.
Were you a big Mario guy though? I mean, have you played other Mario games? No, not really.
No, in fact, this is the first ever Mario game that I have started my own game save single player campaign from the ground up, very beginning.
Nice.
I will be. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you're coming back to it as it flows through your gaming rotation here. So. It actually ends up being a nice segue into our assignment, as you may not necessarily pick up Super Mario Odyssey on your own, or if it didn't pop up in your assignment in your rotation. But our assignment this week is really kind of based on what's been going on here within us, and also some of the things that are launching in the coming week here. So last week, or the last playlist time, Gasicles, you were talking about getting back into, or trying to get back into Red Dead Redemption. You're right. You had done a little bit more streaming of that, tried to get back to it, kind of move back into those mechanics and that system. For my assignment, it was Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was a game I had deliberately put down, but I picked back up and have fallen back in love with it. I'm coming off of putting down Anthem and saying, yeah, I'll maybe come back when there's a little more here. But I am also looking forward to Friday picking up Division 2. I had played some of Division 1, but eventually fell off. But the betas, or at least the second beta, because the first beta kind of told me I should cancel. But my second beta really got me into the Division 2, so I'm kind of back into that. So kind of this on again, off again aspect of when do we fall off games? Sometimes we come back to them. Sometimes we try the next iteration of them, like Prime did with Destiny 2. So this is our assignment. It also is coming off of an article I read on Kotaku over the weekend titled "It's Okay to Stop Playing" by Zach Zweden, which really just says sometimes it's okay to put a game down, right? Like we get to a point where sometimes there is this zeitgeist around it, or it is something that we experienced as we talked about Red Dead Redemption last year during our superlative show, that it was a game that we all felt very we had hopes for in terms of the hype around it, and had different expectations. So our assignment is, what is a game that you've fallen off of or set down deliberately, and why did you choose to not come back to it? So this is one where in some ways this is our anti-assignment, because I'm not asking you guys to go out and to play a game, but to go back and think about a game that you had played. So we are, as all things in E2KG, we continue to mix around and play with the format. And with our Pickz Playz assignments last year on Enough to Keep Going, it was an individual assignment that others selected for us, and we were tasked out to do. This year it has been kind of a group assignment, and like most group assignments, we realize sometimes it's difficult to all stay together in the group assignment. And so right now we're breaking the large group assignment out into some small groups. And so over the next couple of weeks with our Pickz Playz assignments, they're going to be groups of 2. We're gonna pair up. We're gonna do this. And so as we report back out, sometimes we'll have 2 people reporting. Sometimes it might just be 1. But it allows us to kind of mix in the rotation and still have some dialogue around some of these Pickz Playz assignments. So this is our assignment for the coming week. And in 2 weeks from now, we'll be back on the Gamer Xperience show to give our thoughts on what games that we have fallen off of. It may not be all of us on the show. It may not be all of us talking about our assignment, but we'll be back, and that will be kind of the assignment piece there of what makes us fall off a game. And so usually it also leads into, just like tonight, leads into some good conversation. Related to both the game and also the way that we approach other games in that genre, right? Super Mario Odyssey being a good example of that. Next week, gentlemen, we are back with a deep dive show. We had some at the top of the show. Prime gave us a little bit of Xbox PC Halo news. I'm sure over the next week we'll have plenty of other news to be talking about. So join us again next Tuesday evening as we dive back into the news of the week and give us a chance to expand and extrapolate and talk a little bit more about the impact of some of those news stories as well. Gentlemen, before we head out tonight, any final thoughts, any parting words from either of you? No, silence. Excellent. Well,
my only PSA is Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, free on PlayStation Plus this month.
that's right. Yes, it is. And so is The Witness. Is that correct? That I believe the other game from PlayStation Plus. So we've got that. We've got Crackdown 2, which is kind of a stealth drop free game on Xbox, in addition to their games with gold. So you've got a variety of games out there that you can pick up for quote unquote free if you are already subscribing to those services. Gentlemen, thank you for the discussion tonight. Thank you, those of you out there listening and viewing us. Feel free, as always, to leave some comments, to dive in, give us some thoughts around what you're playing. Take up the assignment with us. What's a game that you fell off of, and why? What made you put it down? So, until next time, until next week, this has been myself, DBq Hams, Osiris Prime, Agasically Stamus, and the Enough to Keep Going crew on the E2KG network. And until next week, we're always going to be enough to keep you going. Good night.